Well, this is part 4 of our series, What is a Christian? And let's review part 1. It's not about what you say or what you do. It isn't a matter of saying a prayer, "Dear Jesus, come into my heart." It isn't a matter of carrying a Bible or wearing a Christian t-shirt or a bumper sticker on your car, or even going to church. It's about what you are within. Jesus, and just to review still, Jesus said, it isn't saying, "Dear Jesus, come into my heart," Matthew 7:21. It isn't Matthew 7:22 about doing even miracles in his name. But 2 Corinthians 5:17 says we need to become a new creation. And that means looking at the Bible as a whole, from the Old Testament to today, from Mosaic law to the New Testament teachings, that it's all about God. That has to be our heart, our desire. Everything we think, say, do is about God. That's a Christian. And we talked in part 2 about how God is a king and what that means. And a king is king and his word is law, even if you don't recognize him as king. In the old days, you walked into the middle of a kingdom and started saying the wrong things, started doing the wrong things, and you could say, "Well, I don't care who's the king, I'm going to do what I want to do," and the king would have you killed. His word was law, whether you were a citizen or a visitor or whatever. So for those who say, "I don't recognize God," that's too bad. God is still there, God is still God. And you are subject to his laws, whether you like it or not. Part 3 was, we looked at God as a loving father, and that can be difficult for some of us to understand if we didn't have one, but the idea is there. And a loving father does what is right for the child, not necessarily what the child wants, okay? So for those of you who think God is a gimme machine, gimme, 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 I want more, I want more. If you're saying, "I want more of you," that's fine. But if you're saying, "I want a newer car, a nicer house, I want a better job, I want more money," you got the wrong focus. The Father will give you what you need, not what you want. The Father will teach you, and sometimes that teaching includes suffering. And the Bible's full of that. Whether it be Noah going on the ark, Abraham was a wealthy man, but he lived through some rough times. Nothing like what happened to Moses when he takes the Israelites out of Egypt and they suffer for 40 years. And those are God's chosen people. And we go on and on. The loving Father will teach us. And then in part 3, we also looked at how a slave serves the master. And slave is a word the Bible uses a lot. Many translations downplay it, downgrade it to servant or, worker. It was slave. But in the sense that the slave had a loving master who cared for him and took care of him, and the slave in response did everything he could for the master. And the slave doesn't say, "I can't wait to get out of here." No, the slave with the loving master in those days might have a better life than he'd have if he was a free man. And so too do we have a better life as slaves of God than we do if we're totally free from God. So in part 4, we're going to look at one more concept that I think Christians too often don't understand. We're going to look at a Christian is a soldier. A Christian is a soldier. A concept we've heard, but I think a concept we don't always understand. So a soldier is somebody, well, let's take an example. In combat, a soldier throws himself on a grenade that falls in front of his comrades, sacrificing his own life. He might have a wife and children, or she might have a husband. These days we have both sexes out there in combat, and they both understand one thing, that when they go into combat, their life is forfeit. They've already made up their mind. I may die. And if I have to die to accomplish the mission, if I have to die to protect my comrades, then so be it. My life is forfeit. I've already decided. Now that's a soldier's attitude. How do we apply this into our spiritual life? If I haven't said it enough times, let's say it one more time. It's all about our attitude. It's all about our attitude. How about an example like a couple of the old-time hymns? You know, we used to sing songs like Onward Christian Soldiers and Soldiers of Christ Arise. These days, about the only one I can think of, most of them, you know, are about gimme, 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 in my opinion, but, you know, some are praise and worship to God. The only war type one is we're going up to the high places to tear the devil's kingdom down. And it sounds really good, but I'm not sure Christians understand what that means, nor are they willing to pay the price. The song Onward Christian Soldiers was inspired by 2 Timothy 2:3, where Paul said, "Join with me in suffering like a good soldier of Jesus Christ." Now, join with me in suffering, that is not a popular sermon title these days. And if a preacher preaches that, he's going to preach it in a theoretical and esoteric manner. He's not asking you to suffer. Not really. You think about it. We'll come back to that. In the past, there were Christians that were willing to die for their faith. Whether they were right or wrong, doesn't matter. Different wars, the Crusades are the big example. But these were people willing to die for their faith. You know, that attitude is to be commended. Now, you need to add some brains to it, because I'm not exactly fond of the motivation of the Crusades, but you know, a lot of those guys thought they were doing what was right. They thought they were fighting for the freedom of Jerusalem, which has always been an important, significant issue for the believers. You know, but how many Christians are willing to die for their faith? Nowadays, if somebody gets a paper cut, they want to pray for healing. Now, I might be exaggerating, but only a little sometimes. Maybe we need to look at this. You get the point, right? How about soldiers of Christ arise and put your armor on? That was inspired by Ephesians 6:10 through 18, where Paul's writing about the armor of God. Soldiers of Christ arise and put your armor on. I don't know if it was an accident. I don't think so. I think it was Holy Spirit inspired. But Paul starts with the belt of truth. The belt of truth. These days on TV commercials, you see people like there's a new one out where the husband and the children are at home and mom's on the road, and they got a video and they're telling her everything's okay, and then after she hangs up, they pan back and you can see the whole kitchen's a disaster. What is Dad teaching? He's teaching the kids to lie. How many Christians do you hear saying, well, you know, I cheated on my taxes, if they're willing to admit it? Many won't even admit it because they know it's wrong. But they say to themselves, well, the government takes too much money from us anyway. I don't like our government. Jesus said to Peter, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's. And he paid the tax. Listen, if you owe a tax, pay it. Stop lying about it. It's a problem for workers too. You're drawing a paycheck for 8 hours a day, then give your boss 8 hours of work, allowing for the short breaks. If you don't, you're lying to them. I don't care what everyone else does. You're going to wear the belt of truth? Then wear the belt of truth. My daughter's an insurance agent, and she gets customer calls, and like Geico says that they'll tell you who's who's got the best rate, even if it's not them. Well, my daughter can't draw on their vast resources, but my daughter won't lie to you. Doesn't matter if she's going to lose a sale or not, she's going to tell you the truth. Come on, people, that's wearing the belt of truth. You live your life saying, well, it may cost me some money here, but I'm going to tell the truth. I'm just asking. Sure seems to me like Christians like to fudge on that one. They call it gray area or something. Listen, it's the truth or it's not the truth. What's so hard about that? And next it goes on to breastplate of righteousness. That's being right, being morally correct. Well, that kind of relates back to the truth. So let's see. Let's jump on down. Now we can go through all of the aspects of the armor of God, but people, let me tell you, if you put on the armor of God, it's going to cost you. If you quote the verse, it doesn't cost you a thing. If you sing a cute little children's song about it, it doesn't cost you a thing. But if you're really going to wear the armor of God, it's going to cost you. Now, I can't tell you how many times, the armor of God includes the gospel. I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody tell me, well, I don't know how to share the gospel with somebody. Really? Really? You believe? Tell them what you believe. Tell them why you believe it. There, you shared the gospel. I became a Christian because, I heard this guy talking about, and it made sense, and so I believe. The armor of God includes readiness. Are you ready? Are you ready to use the truth? Are you ready to pay the price? Are you ready to be obedient? Because our mission, people, in case you didn't know it, soldiers have a mission. Our mission is to go into all the world and share the good news. I don't care if you're listening to me from North Carolina or Texas or Colorado or Cheyenne, Wyoming. God said go into all the world, and that includes right where you're living. That's our Great Commission. That's our mission statement, people. That's what we need to do. We don't even understand sometimes what is faith. Too many modern Christians don't understand that one at all. They think they do, but what are they really trusting God for? They're busy accumulating money, busy accumulating wealth. Whether you're rich or poor, in America, it's all about get a little more. Nobody's ever happy with what they got. They want a little more. I want just a little bit more. Do you trust in God to provide your daily bread? Listen, if you've got equity in your house and a couple of nice cars that are good running and you got some money in the bank and a retirement account, you ain't trusting God for nothing. Jesus told the rich young man, go sell what you have, give it to the poor, and come follow me. I'm not so certain he wouldn't say that to the modern American Christian either. Do you hear what I'm saying? Read the scriptures. See for yourself. If you have all those things, you're trusting in you. You're trusting in what you've earned. There's nothing wrong with having some possessions. But some possessions, people, some Christians, it really boggles the mind that they think that that's what they need. That's the bare essentials for living. Really? 4,000 square foot house that cost $500,000 and 5 cars because you like cars? Get off from it. You aren't going to learn faith like that The helmet of salvation, we've talked about that. It's not what you say or do, it's what you are. The sword of the Spirit, you got to know the Word. People, you ain't going to know the Word by going to church once a week. You aren't going to know the Word by listening to somebody on TV or radio. You aren't going to know the Word by reading a good book. You're going to only know the Word by reading the good book. You're only going to know the Word by studying the good book. The Holy Bible is the Word. You got to know the Word, and that's the sword of the Spirit. I hope that's why you're listening, because I hope I'm delivering the Word of God here. And don't tell me I don't have time. You got time to watch TV, you got time for the Word. Don't tell me you can't memorize the Bible, because if you can memorize sports statistics or recipes, you can memorize the Bible. Remember this, people. It's about what you are and where your attitude is, where your focus is. A soldier is not focused on their comfort, their possessions. You don't see a soldier in combat that's going around with a big old travel trailer, hauling behind that a storage trailer and picking up things where they go. That's ridiculous. A soldier is probably going to be sleeping in a pup tent if he even bothers to put up a tent. A soldier in combat is going to be worried about where the enemy is, what he's doing, what are his comrades doing, what's the danger, what should I do here? A soldier in combat is not worried about his possessions. He's focused on one thing, and that's to accomplish the mission. Alive if possible, but accomplish the mission. Muslim extremists are ready to die. We've seen that. Now, they may be misguided, and we'd call them ignorant, but they believe what they've been taught, and they are ready to die. I already talked about how Christians have been like that. Right or wrong, let's not worry about that. Let's talk about they are totally committed. Totally committed. This is number one priority in their life. Their faith, their belief. They're totally committed. American Christians as a whole are afraid to talk about their faith at work, because you don't talk about church at work or politics. And then they go ahead and talk about politics, but they're still afraid to talk about church and God and their faith and why they believe. Now, there's a way to do it and there's a way not to. I got a whole series on that, on how to share your faith. And maybe I'll put that on video sometime, but that's another time. Are you afraid you're going to lose your job? Really? You ask my customers and my coworkers over the years, and on my emails I always had that little ictus. I had a less than sign, a greater than sign, and a less than sign, made the little fish right after my name on every email I sent out. Never caused me grief once. I wasn't preaching at people, but I sure let them know where I stand, don't you think? Are you afraid to lose your job? What's more important, your job or your God? Huh. Are you a soldier or are you just a spectator? That's my question for you. We are at war, people. It's a spiritual war, but we are at war. Make no mistake about it. And don't tell me, I don't know how to do, but whatever. Listen, there's only one way to learn, and that's by practicing. And you learn fastest if you learn from somebody that's already doing what you want to learn how to do. When the Army goes to teach you how to shoot a rifle, they don't take somebody that's never shot a rifle and have them teach you how to shoot a rifle. All right? Now, I'm not saying all ministers are like this, but how many ministers are out there that are out there going to visit bars and going out and amongst the world to share the gospel? I know a lot of churches where they have groups that go out and hand out tracts or whatever, but usually you don't see the minister there. What's the minister doing? He's sitting in the ivory tower doing his sermons. If your minister isn't out sharing the gospel, then how in the world is he going to teach you how to do it? Well, 20 years ago he did. I don't care. The world's changed. What worked 20 years ago doesn't work today. Trust me. I've tried it. I still try new things all the time because I never know what's going to work. If you're a minister, get out there. If you're a minister that's already out there, praise God, I love you. People, if your minister isn't out in the public doing outreach, he ain't doing spiritual warfare. Pure and simple. He may be teaching you a little, but how's he going to teach you the important stuff if he ain't doing it? So you know how to fire a rifle? No? Then don't ask him to show you how. I'm a soldier. I'm a soldier for Christ. I get tired. I get discouraged. Sometimes I wonder what my mission is anymore. I think I'm going here and it's not working, so I'm going to try something else. Listen, people, if you're a Christian, then you are supposed to be a soldier. If you are a soldier, you are committed to achieving the goal, which is to share the good news. Matthew 28, Acts 1, Mark 16. Go into all the world, share the good news. That includes right where you're at. It is not put money in the offering plate so somebody else can go out and fight the battle. If you are not out there fighting the battle, then I wonder how committed you are. I think there's no reason why anybody that says I'm a Christian can't lead at least one person to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ every year. That's not asking too much, is it? And if you're already doing 10 a year, then I challenge you to do 20. You tell me when you've done enough. No, wait a minute, don't tell me. Tell God Almighty. He's the one that gave us the mission. Soldiers of Christ, arise and put your armor on, because we're going to march onward, Christian soldiers, as going to war with the cross of Jesus going on before.